want to inform the public that due to the continuous incidents of damage to the underground cable networks of our CCTV cameras, the police in Kachiri, working together with the Directorate of ICT and CID, managed to arrest one of the site engineers in Kachiri called Engineer Chambade Eddie, who is now being investigated for damages to a section of the underground fiber cable network in Kachiri. Because of the damages on this underground fiber cable network, our CCTV signals in Kachiri, Masulita, Namayuba, and Chikandwa were affected. So this is why we have decided to take action, first of all by having the site engineer arrested. We also impounded trucks that were clearing the site in Kachiri Wakiso. Although our team of ICT experts are working on the restoration of the CCTV networks from Kachiri to Chikandwa, we are getting more concerned because this is the third incident where our underground fiber networks are damaged, yet the protection zone is clearly marked on the major roads, highways, towns, and other localities. So I want to caution all road contractors to work closely with the Directorate of ICT to ensure that they get to know where the protection zones are, where the fiber network is running, so that the plants and machinery that the road contractors and other site contractors are using don't interfere with this very critical government communication infrastructure. The damage to the underground fiber cable network has serious financial consequences in terms of restoration, so we are going to ensure heavy fines or costs of reinstating the fiber are felt by the construction company, and further charge the site engineer with negligent conduct which resulted in the damage of the fiber cable network. Now, to guard against such disruptions and damages in future, we are now working with KCCA, UNRA, the town clerks, different municipalities and town councils to harmonize the construction works that they are doing to reduce on this fiber cable damage. Now, our police we are closely monitoring the diocese in Kumi, the conflict in Kumi diocese. Our joint security agencies in East Choga region are monitoring the leadership conflict at Kumi diocese, which is threatening to split the congregation and followers and draw them into acts of violence. The background to the conflict originated in 2018, where Reverend Okunya was elected as the second bishop of Kumi diocese. However, his election was revoked on February 2020 by the then Right Reverend Stanley Ntagali, who was the Archbishop, on grounds of falsification of age. So the bishop-elect then, that is Reverend Okunya, petitioned the High Court contesting the revocation of his appointment, which was dismissed in favor of the trustees of the church, that he was above age. As a result, the trustees of the church appointed the caretaker as Bishop Charles Odur Kami. Now, all these developments left Reverend Okunya discontented, along with a few other senior members of the church. And he went on with plans to hold his consecration. That was yesterday, 23rd. at St. Philip Church in Ngora. We blocked it because it was an illegal consecration. We had also received the communication from the Archbishop Church of Uganda and the caretaker bishop of Kumi Diocese, that is Bishop Charles Odur Kami, that this event should not proceed. Therefore, as the joint security agencies, we strongly condemn the acts of propaganda aimed at inciting violence, hatred, and promoting divisions between the clergy and the laity. We managed to arrest 51 suspects, 26 of whom were erecting tents at Ngora Cathedral, and then we also arrested an additional 25 who were intercepted while traveling from Kumi to join the group in Ngora. They are so far being charged with the various offenses of threatening violence, criminal trespass, and inconsiderate use of the road. A total of 7 motorcycles, a bicycle, 2 motor vehicles, that is a Noah, under registration number UAV951S, and the tipper ELF under registration number UHU876T were impounded and parked at Ngora and Kumi police stations respectively. So we want to urge Reverend Okunya to respect the court judgment and also the church protocols. He's well aware that the Church of Uganda is well regulated. Therefore, its activities, duties, functions, powers, and authorities must be respected. Where one cannot continue subscribing to the church, they can move forward and set up a ministry outside the Church of Uganda. We also have more suspects arrested in the smash and grab thefts along the bypass. Our task team at KMP targeting criminal gangs along the northern bypass and other hotspots. In their operations, managed to recover a pistol that was recovered from robbed from an officer on the 15th of January 2022 at around 4:30 a.m. near Seroma Hardware. The bag, after the bag of the major that was robbed with a pistol, 2 mobile phones, there was a checkbook, and cash 2.4 million. So we managed to build on the intelligence and leads and arrested Tugume Julius, one of the phone snatchers along the bypass. He led us to Orone Herbert, a 26-year-old who is also popular and known as Heve. We tracked him down at Naguru Godown and arrested him. He admitted how he smashed and grabbed the bag from the major. We recovered the pistol which he had stolen with 8 rounds, an iPhone. When we got him, he had used 1.4 million out of the 2.4 million for treating his wife. So the continued operations along the bypass are ongoing. We did carry out operations at the axis from Deden Center, Butu Chirwa, Ntinda, then Chamuka zone in Kamocha, where we recovered over 1,000 sticks of opium and an assortment of raw weapons like knives and pointed metals. A total of 115 people were arrested, and although the attacks now have reduced along the bypass, the criminal remnants have now shifted to waylaying people in dark corners, especially outside in the suburbs of the city. So I want to caution the public that now with the full reopening of the economy and the fact that sometimes people go back home late under the cover of darkness, you really need to be very cautious as you move back home, because under the cover of darkness, you find that you as a person, you're actually very, very vulnerable in that movement. Now the IGP has also come out to commend the flying squad team, which recovered cash US dollars 27,700 and 97.8 million that had been stolen from David Vigirwa. David Vigirwa is a businessman dealing in cosmetics from Movit Group of companies, and he had taken actually his vehicle for washing at Reda's Washing Bay in Nyanama, and one of the boys, that is Emmanuel Tumusime, who was washing the motor vehicle, a Scania trailer, at the Washing Bay, landed on this money, a tune of 90,000 US dollars, which was meant for purchase of cosmetics from Movit company. We managed to track him down and arrested him, and then recovered 27,700 US dollars and 97 million. The suspect is being processed for court, but the money that was recovered is intact, and arrangements are in place to ensure that it is handed over to the owner, that is David Vigirwa. So I want to commend those officers. Then there are a few traditional crimes that we are also investigating. One of those is death by suspected poisoning, where a wife called Lukusi Rebecca, of a resident of Kalidasi village, Kangulumira sub-county in Kayunga district, went and delivered suspected poisonous substances to her husband, Taitika Habibu, who was arrested for stealing cattle and obtaining money by false pretenses. Now, this Taitika Habibu was in custody at Kayunga police station and was scheduled to appear in court last Friday, that was on the 21st of January 2022. His wife, Lukusi Rebecca, managed to carry these poisonous substances. The substance was purple-like crystal sugar, which he took to the husband. And during the time that he was engaging the husband outside the police station, he managed to give him the poisonous substance. The victim took the substance and started developing complications. We rushed him to Kangulumira Health Center 4, where he was admitted in critical condition and died the following morning. So we arrested the wife, Lukusi Rebecca. A search was further conducted, and we found the substances at her home in Kalidasi village. We are yet to find out the motive of serving the husband with this poisonous substance. However, she's being processed on grounds of unsuspected murder by poison of the husband. We are also interesting ourselves in cases of suicides, especially in children and young teenagers. Much as we have an increase in cases of suicide, but we are also concerned with the cases of suicide in children. On the 17th of January, we had a 12-year-old Samuel Nsubirizihe, who committed suicide by hanging at the home of his brother-in-law, Tumusime Joash, that is at Mburamaizu village, Chikwaya sub-county in Kakumiro. He had gone to visit the brother-in-law, so when they were going for gardening in the morning, they left him to look after the younger relatives. So he used a string from a mosquito net and hanged himself in the sitting room when the elders were not around. Now this is so touching for a 12-year-old to start hanging himself. But what is most painful, last week, on the other week, on the 12th of January, we had a 6-year-old Nantume Maureen who was in middle class. She was staying with her auntie in Bweyogerere police barracks and was supposed to travel back to Buikwe district, that is at Rugomba village, where she was studying. And we learned that this is a young girl who had requested to remain and study here, but the auntie could not consider her request. So when the other children to the auntie had gone to school, she took breakfast to the auntie at her shop, and then she came back home where she was alone. And she she got a piece of cloth and used the middle part of the double-decker and hanged herself at 6 years. Now, these are why we have really come out. This is a concern because when you have suicides among children of 6, of 8, and 12 years, it is actually a problem. But such suicides in young children is usually associated with a lot of depression, feelings of sadness, confusion, anger, and it is always good that parents, guardians, and caretakers are always on the watch out, especially when children are exhibiting or are using suicidal statements like, "I wish I was dead," "I won't be a problem for you much longer," "What does it mean to die?" or "What happens when you die?" Then changes in eating, sleeping habits, withdrawal from friends, decline in quality of schoolwork. When a child is preoccupied with death, please, let's always try to take interest. The good thing is that depression is something that is treatable. We should always seek professional help from health professionals that is in mental health. And even trying to be friendly to the children, trying to engage them, putting questions of reassurance to them. You don't need to take your life is valuable, and things like that. We also have a man whom we arrested for domestic violence in Entebbe. We have him in custody, somebody called Mukuza James, a resident of Nabanze village in Kasanje, who returned home over the weekend and developed a misunderstanding with his wife Nachintu Florence. So he decided to kick the wife repeatedly. She collapsed and died just there and then over some flimsy conflict. So we have him also arrested and are charging him for murder. In the weekly operations that we carried out in the AS2 zones, the general security situation remains normal. However, different AS2 UPDF zones registered incidences of animal raids and thefts. In the course of the week, 137 heads of cattle, 24 donkeys, and 408 goats were raided. We've so far managed to recover 60 heads of cattle, 19 donkeys, and 158 goats and sheep. We are still tracking 77 heads of cattle and 250 goats. We continue to impound We continue to impound cattle that are being transported without proper documents. In the course of last week, we managed to impound some. We recovered a gun and 23 rounds, making a total of 142 guns and 1,337 ammunitions ever since the start of the Usalama Kwawote disarmament. 2 civilians were shot dead by Karamajong warriors and another 2 were injured. However, 7 warriors were put out of action after they refused to surrender and engaged us in exchange of fire. 6 were arrested and charged for being in possession of illegal firearms and cattle rustling.